Hi guys, this is Vineet, and in today's video we will talk about the ways to capture the query performance metrics, and this is the part 2 of this video. If you have not watched the part 1 of this video, I would request you and recommend you to go ahead and watch the part 1 first before watching this video. If you are new to this channel and if you have not already subscribed to my channel, there's a subscribe button below this video. Please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Click on the subscribe button. It will give you a bell icon. Click on that bell icon, select all notifications to get notifications regarding all my future videos. So let me give you 5 to 10 seconds to subscribe. Please go ahead and do so right now. I'm waiting. So guys, I hope you have subscribed by now. Most of you must have subscribed by now. Now let's move ahead. Please watch this video. There are some points to remember, so please watch this video till the end to gain better clarity of the concept. And if it's possible for you, please watch this video twice or as many times as you want until the concept is clear to you. Perform any exercises in your lab and test environments only. Do not touch any production environments or production databases. And we would like to know your thoughts regarding our videos, so please share your comments, suggestions, requirements with us. Also, let us know about your day-to-day experiences with SQL Server. And also share about the scenarios where my content has helped you somewhere in your day-to-day situations. Do share those experiences with us. We eagerly wait for your comments and would love to read them. And so please do post us. And I've created some playlists for you to watch. So we have a database design playlist, table playlist, business continuity playlist, indexing playlist, performance tuning playlist, and integration services playlist. This video belongs to the performance tuning playlist category. There are more than 20 videos at present in the performance tuning playlist. Here the counts are not correct. We have more videos under each playlist. And in total, if you talk about the channel, we have around like 190 videos, more than 190 videos posted. So all the links to these playlists are available in the video description area. And if you want to learn about any particular topic, I would always suggest to go through a playlist completely and not just watch the random videos on various topics. Because if you go through the playlist while watching the videos, go through the playlist. If you go through the playlist, it will enhance your learning in a better way instead of if you are watching videos randomly. So for example, if you want to get mastery on performance tuning, I would suggest going to my performance tuning playlist and watch out all the videos. I'm on a constant basis or on a daily basis, I'm adding videos under each and every domain. As much time as I get, I do post the videos under each playlist. So it depends upon the time I'm getting on a daily basis. I try to post a video on a daily basis. Now, let's come back to today's topic, which is ways to capture query performance metrics. Part 2 of this video is this. And let me go to my notes. So today in this video, we will be discussing about extended events, which is one of the ways to capture the query performance metrics. So if I talk about the extended events, they were first introduced with SQL Server version, I would say 2008. So, but if we talk about that time when SQL Server version 2008 was released, these extended events simply didn't provide an adequate level of functionality to make them useful for capturing the query metrics. So at that time they were not useful in. So by this time, I'm talking about SQL Server version 2008. By this time, these were not useful in capturing the query performance metrics, I would say. So upgrades happen to each version of SQL Server. Upgrades happen to SQL Server versions. So when upgrades happen to SQL Server versions, upgrade to extended events introduced in so upgrades to extended events introduced in SQL Server version, I would say, 2012. And with this version, the extended events included a new GUI as well. So this included basically a new GUI, or new GUI, I would simply say a GUI, as well as many changes to the behavior of extended events. So if we talk about upgrades, the major upgrade happened to the extended events in SQL Server 2012, which basically included a GUI as well as many other changes to the behavior of the extended events. All right, and it also added a new bunch of events. I would say events, which basically made extended events viable for capturing quality metrics. All right, and basically with this upgrade, the extended events become capable for capturing the quality metrics. And with this version, it now has an efficient way to capture the so extended events. If we talk about, they now have an efficient way to capture the detailed query performance. So we can capture the detailed query performance details via the extended events. Now let's talk about the trace events and profilers, which we were discussing in the previous video and during the last point. So we were discussing trace events before that and the SQL Server Profiler. In my last video, you can check that out if you have not already viewed that video. So we talked about trace events and profiler in that video. Now trace events and profiler still work within SQL Server. So if we talk about the trace events and SQL Profiler, which is not basically extended events. Extended events is basically a different functionality which is embedded within the SQL Server, and it's not a separate module. So trace events and the profiler still works with SQL Server, we can say. All right, let me put some space here. Better aesthetics. All right. Now let's discuss this point. So trace events are still present, and SQL Profiler is also still works with SQL Server, and it's still present. But they are not available on Azure SQL database. So if you talk about the Azure SQL database or SQL database on Azure, they do not have the SQL Profiler or trace events functionality. So basically they cause overhead. The trace events and profiler cause the overhead on the system. And therefore, we talked previously as well, trace events and profiler causes an additional burden on your system and causes the system to starve of resources. So we do not recommend their use on any systems running SQL Server 2012 or greater. But yeah, if you are using SQL Server version which is lower than 2012, you may use the trace events with SQL Profiler. But yeah, nowadays we have SQL Server version 2022, which I'm currently working on. So we will not be using the trace events and profilers, but instead we will be using the extended events. Now let's move ahead and let's see what should be the next point. Okay, so extended events basically consists of a number of different programmatic constructs. However, we are going to make use of them as simple as we can. Um, with this in mind, let's focus on the following points. So let's talk about extended events in detail here. So extended events, let me mark it with different color now. Give me a sec, guys. So let's mark it with red color. So extended events basically consists of a number of different programmatic constructs. All right. So for extended events, let's focus on the following points. So let us focus on the following points. So there's a concept, following points, or you can say concepts. So what all things are available in extended events? So first one are the sessions. Uh, Let me mark it with a different color to make it a heading or something. Let's mark it with maybe this color. Okay, let's talk about session, maybe different color. Let's mark it as this. Okay, so what are sessions? Sessions basically defines which all events will be captured by the extended events and how they will be stored, right? And how these events will be stored um, related to each other and all other aspects of behavior of. And so basically sessions define which all events will be captured, how they will be stored, and how they will be related to each other, and various other uh, aspects of behavior of extended events. So this is the concept of sessions. Now let's talk about events. So there is a concept of events to basically capture the events. Let me make this proper color code. Okay, let's talk about events. So events are basically the activities that are occurring within the SQL Server. All right. With one of our main focuses being on the query performance, we would say. So basically, events refers to the activities that are occurring within the SQL Server, and basically they are the main focus in regards to query performance. And these events includes waits, recompiles, deadlocks, and more information. So events basically captures the activities that are occurring within the SQL Server, and basically including things like any waits happening, waits, recompiles, any deadlocks, and more. So these are all the events. If we talk about wait is an event, deadlock is an event. So events basically includes all the activities that are occurring within the SQL Server. All right. And if we just focus our attention on the query performance, we basically look into the things like waits, recompiles, deadlocks, and more. All right. Now let's talk about the next item or next concept. So next concept is the global fields, which are basically actions. Let's talk about them. So if we talk about global fields, these are basically additional pieces of information that can be added to an event. So additional piece of information that can be added to an event. These are global fields. So additional pieces of information that can be added to a given event, to an event maybe. And they represent basically additional functional activity within SQL Server. So they represent additional activity or functional activity. Sorry guys. They represent additional functional activity within SQL Server. So they should be used judiciously. So we should not be using these fields or global fields unless that they are absolutely required for us. Now in addition to global fields, we have other type of fields as well. So these are called event fields, and let's talk about them. Let me make it heading quickly. All right, so let's talk about events field. Now each event consists of a combination of standard and optional information to be captured. So each event consists of standard and optional information to be captured. Now this is the key data that makes and this data basically makes the extended events useful. So event fields basically contain all the data for events, and this is what makes the extended events useful. I hope you got the idea. Now there is a concept of predicates. What are predicates? Let's discuss about them. So if we talk about predicates here, so if we talk in simple terms, a where clause that can be added to an extended event is a predicate to filter the information captured. So let's start with an example. An example could be the where clause that can be added to the extended events to filter out the information, filter the information to be captured maybe. All right. Now the another concept is of targets. Let me write it. 1 second, guys. Targets. Let's talk about the targets. What are the targets? So targets basically define where the data that is captured will be stored. Um, they define the place where the captured data for events will be stored. All right. And the default here is the ring buffers. So by default, data gets stored in the or extended by default. Extended events data gets stored in the ring buffers, which is a memory space in Windows. But that should not be used in the production environment. So that memory space is not used in the production environment. All right, let's ignore that. Now, yeah, I've discussed some of the concepts related to extended events. Those concepts include sessions, events, global fields, event fields, predicates, and targets. Now, let's continue talking about the extended events. Now, extended events can be created, edited, started, stopped, removed through a GUI interface in SQL Server Management Studio. So this is an important point, guys. Let me change the color. So if we talk about the extended events. So extended events can be created. We can create them. We can edit them. They can be edited, started, and stopped. And also we can remove them through a GUI or graphical user interface. GUI interface in SSMS or SQL Server Management Studio. A more limited interface in Azure Data Studio. So in SQL Server Management Studio, we have a good interface for extended events. But in Azure Data Studio, we talk about, which is another application installed locally on the desktop. It has a limited interface for extended events. So if it, let me write that down. So Azure Data Studio application has a limited interface for extended events. Limited, I can say GUI interface for extended events. And extended events can be created, edited, first of all, via the GUI interface in SSMS. They can, or second option is we can edit here. They can be created via GUI in SSMS or using T-SQL as well. We can do all these operations like creating, editing, starting, stopping, and removing the extended events. We can use T-SQL to do so as well, which is transact SQL. And we will spend majority of our time looking through the GUI, as it is the easiest way to get started with the extended events. So we will be showing you the GUI interface. And there is even a GUI introduced in SSMS called X Event Profiler. So which basically emulates the two most common templates from Profiler for capturing the query information. So we will show you how you can access the extended events via the GUI, and there is also a GUI which we are talking about, which is called X Event Profiler, which is available in SSMS. And this X Event Profiler basically emulates the two common templates from Profiler for capturing the query information. And it is the faster way to immediately see the query metrics using the extended events. However, we will not be covering the X Event Profiler in this video. Yeah, but we will be showing you extended events GUI interface, and we will focus on showing you how you can create your own custom sessions. We will show you that. And finally, there is another GUI called the live data window that lets us explore the information captured by the extended event. So we will show you that as well, live data window, which shows us the information captured by the extended events. So we will show you how to create your own custom sessions. And what are sessions? So session basically defines which all events will be captured. So we will show you via the GUI how you can create your own custom sessions, and we will show you the live data window, which can be used to explore the information captured by the extended events. All right, let me mark this as heading so that we can differentiate this. Let me mark it with the proper color. So yeah, we are fine. So live data window, not windows. It's a singular word. So live data window is used to explore the information captured by the extended events. All right, let's move ahead. Let's see how much we have recorded. Almost 25 minutes of video. Let's move on. So let me show you how you can create an extended event session. So let's dig into a practical. So there are actually two separate graphical user interfaces in SQL Server Management Studio to create a custom extended events session. The two GUIs are one of them is the new session wizard, and second one is the new session window. So new session wizard or new session window are two interfaces where we can define the sessions for extended events. All right. So here we are talking about the creating an extended event session. So this is what we are showing to you currently. Let me mark this as heading. All right. So two GUIs can be used to create the custom extended events session. And what are these two GUIs? These are basically new session wizard and the new session window. Through these two GUIs, we can create the extended event session. All right. And the wizard adds almost nothing to the process and can hide some functionality as well. So if we talk about the new session wizard, it doesn't add anything additional to the process, and it also hides some functionality. So we are going to focus only on the new session window. So what we will be focusing on is the new session window, and we will not use the new session wizard. All right. Also, the new session window is just as easy to use as wizard. So we will also use the new session when we want to edit the session. All right. So it's good idea to get familiar with it. All right. And let me show you practically now. Now, to access the new session window, you will need to navigate through the Object Explorer. So let's go inside the SQL Server Management Studio. Let me show you the area where you can access the new session window. So I have triggered the SSMS. Let's wait for it to open. It's opening right now. You can give it a few seconds. So guys, in the meantime it's opening. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. If you want to get notifications on my future videos, please also turn on the notifications when you subscribe. So let me connect to the default instance of SQL Server, and I'm showing you where you can access the new session window. So we need to navigate through the Object Explorer, and basically there is a management menu over here. Expand this menu. You need to expand on that, and under that you will find the extended event section, which is this, and we need to open this area, and under that we will find sessions, right? So if we expand right now, we see 3 sessions already present over here. All right. So this is basically the place where the extended event sessions are located. Now if we right click on the session, right, we get the context menu, and where we can select new session from that menu, and you will get a new session window over here. All right, so let's wait for new session window to appear. So it has appeared now. Now the only thing you have to fill in the here is so in the new session window we just need to fill in the session name. The rest of the settings, maybe on these page and various other page, these are optional. So what is required is just the session name, and rest of the settings here are optional. The name of the sessions can have blanks included in them, and there's a maximum of 128 character limit, right? So cannot be more than 128 characters, and the given session name must be unique on the server, and we basically try to use fairly descriptive names, so it's clear what kind of monitoring we are doing through a session, or what kind of monitoring session is performing. We need to name them accordingly. All right, and we have a choice to go from here and create a custom session, or we can also take the advantage of the template, so we can name the session and create a custom session. Otherwise, there are some templates available which we can use. There are some templates available for query execution over here, if you can see, and for system monitoring as well. We have some templates. You can use them as well. So template has a drop down with a large selection of different templates. Most of them are very oriented towards capturing the performance statistics. So these are the ones. All right. So these are the performance statistics counters in different ways. You also get the option to load a session from a file. So if session is saved in a file, we can load it through a file as well. So we have option for that as well. And a few example of templates that we can use include the following for performance tuning. So one of the template is the count query logs. This is one of the template we can use for performance metrics. It is basically a template that uses the histogram target along with the query hash values to count logs per query. All right, so basically the settings gives us information on how many logs per query are present. All right, and apart from that, we have tsql parameter, which is one of the useful parameters. So one of the profiler equivalent templates. So if we just select tsql, it's the equivalent to the profiler equivalent template. It captures login as well as batch information, and as well as remote procedure call completion details. So if we select this template, it will capture all this information: the logins, batch, and remote procedure call completion details. Now, if we talk about another template which is useful, is query batch sampling is one of the template which is useful. And this template is specific to extended events that uses a filter to only capture query metrics on 20% of all sessions running on the server. So if we talk about this template, this is just specific to extended events, and it can use filter to capture query metrics on 20% of all sessions running on the server. Now let's talk about another template, which is query detail tracking, which is the fourth template under the query execution. So query detail tracking, if we talk about, it captures all different sort of statements, basically query details. So it captures all kind of statements, batches, and RPC completion while filtering out system queries and system databases. So filtering is available in this template as well. Now the last template which is useful is query weight statistics, which is another template only available to extended events, where every query starting and completing, as well as all the statements and the internal and external weights, are captured across 20% of all sessions, including casualty tracking as well. We will explain casualty tracking later in this chapter, later in this video, guys. Now you have a lot to work from, or you can go and customize your own sessions elements. So either we can use the templates, or we can define our own custom sessions and events. Now in the middle of the windows visible, this window, new session window, we can see some options available to our session, right? We can enable or disable starting a session when the server starts. So this is one of the option we can use. We can start an event session at server startup itself whenever a SQL Server starts. We also have the ability to immediately start this session after you have finished editing it. So there's second option, start the event session immediately after session creation. So as soon as it is created, it will the SQL Server will automatically start this session as well, right? And along with this, we can immediately open the live data window. So we can check the second option if we want to view the live data window to see the result of the session. And we basically use this feature quite a lot, and especially when for setting up a session. At the bottom of the screen is where we can enable or disable the casualty tracking for the session. We'll talk about it later in much detail. From there, you would click on the left hand side of the screen where it says events. So there is an event section as well. In order to start adding and configuring event, we can do it from this window. All right. So here we are just briefly discussing about this events, extended events window. We are not doing any practical here. So we have discussed about the general tab. Next one is the events tab, where we can start adding and configuring events. So these are various events, and these are the configuration for the events, right? And let's move ahead. So and talk about adding and configuring events, guys. So please be careful, be attentive. Now let's talk about adding and configuring the events. Any given session must have at least. So let me first name this session. Maybe let's name it test session, and let's go to events. Now, any given session must have at least one event added to it. All right, and any given session can have a large number of events. So at least there should be one event, or it can have large number of events as well. Any session. However, we recommend caution when adding events to a session, right? So you should exercise caution while you add events to a session, since you are seriously negatively impacting the system by overloading it with events. So each event you add to a session will cause an overload on the system. So when we first open the event page, we get a screen like this, right? And this window can be maximized as well, so we can maximize it to whole screen to get better visibility, and we can also expand all the columns, get better visibility over here. All right, so if the window is maximized, it makes it possible to expand all the columns, making it a little easier to read. And I'm going to just leave it at defaults, so we are not changing anything over here. The list of events are right in front of you. So these are some of the events like adaptive join script, and there are various other events, automatic tuning error. These are all the events, right? So we have events right in front of us, and by default all the events are listed over here. However, we have 4 different ways to filter the events right on the screen, right? So what are these 4 ways? At the top, there is a text box for inputting search, and it automatically uses a wildcard search. So for example, if I'm looking for maybe RPC completed event, I can type it like this. So we can get events like this if we want to just check for the events. So we can also type completed in the window, so it will gives us all the events the completed and written inside them. So let's type completed. So I need to scroll down so to get the RPC completed, because it lists out all the events with the completed word in it. And so if we just type completed, we will get a fairly long list. So instead we should be typing a specific keyword. And in case we get a list, we can scroll through the list to find what we want, right? So all right, so these are the words we want RPC completed. We can select that and move it to the right hand side if we want to select RPC completed. Alright, this is how you select certain events. Now you can also change the way the search works, and by default, as drop down defined, that is immediately defined next to the search window or search box. So there's a drop down, right? So this drop down is shown next to the text box. By default, we search in event names only, so which is the first column, right? And with the drop down, there are other choices as well. So if we want to event search in event name, and we want to search in event description as well, we can. So every event has a description. So if we move this event to the left hand side, so if we select it, it has a description area here as well, which gives the description of the event. So if we want to search within the event names only, we can select event names only. Otherwise, we can select event names and description, and we can select event fields only. And if we want to search everywhere, description, event names and event fields, we can select the last option. So these are the options available for search. All right. With the drop down, we just saw the other options. The other three options are event names and description, event fields only, and all. And in addition to the search box, we can also filter by category. So one way to filter is using the search box, and we can filter by category as well. We can filter by channel as well, and we can filter by package as well. All right. And basically, we leave this alone. So by categorization, we can use this to filter out by category, and we can similarly filter out by not filter out by sorry filter out by we can use the filters like here. So if we want, we can select only certain category of events, maybe deploy related or error related or whatever categories. So right now under this category we don't have anything. So we have selected all the categories. Let's do a select all over here so that all events are shown up. But yeah, just to give an idea, you can filter by categories. We can filter by channel here. We can, if we want to see the debug events, we can check this out. And we can filter on the package level, right? So basically, we generally leave this alone as we are able to find what we need through the search box, which is RPC completed. We have added to the right hand side. Now, the one exception is channel. So we basically generally don't leave these options alone. We can basically find anything through the search box. There's only one exception, which is this channel section, and there are only 4 channels: admin, analytic, debug, and operational. Right? By default, the debug channel is disabled, so this one is disabled, and this is because the events in the debug channel are subject to change by Microsoft without notice. So events under this section, Microsoft can change them without any notice. So generally this section is debug channel is disabled. Also, some of the events in the debug channel are dangerous as well. So if we check this channels, it includes some of the events which are dangerous for the system as well. So generally we should be careful when we check this, and we recommend extreme caution when using the debug channel events. So guys, exercise extreme caution if you want to turn this on, because there are some events that are dangerous which are inside the debug channel. So it's better to just leave the channel alone. Don't make any changes there. Once we have determined which events we are interested in, we can click on that event and then select the window changes to. So for example, we are talking about the, let's say, let's remove this. Let's do, or let's take RPC completed. When we select that event, we get the event description over here, and event fields are this for this particular event. So it collects, it gives information on collect data stream, collect statement, data stream, logical reads. These are all the fields related to these events which will be captured, right? So when we click on the event, we get its information like the description and the field available, and we have description for fields as well, what that particular field means, right? Now, two boxes below the event list are now filled in. So we were talking about these boxes, right? The first window is the description window of the event currently selected, and the second window is a listing of the fields associated with the event, which is this event. So it is showing fields associated with the RPC completed event over here, and the description of those fields is available here as well, including the metric definitions as well. All right. For example, the duration field. So if we talk about the duration field here, right? Description informs you that the values are in microseconds. So if we look at the description, it is saying that, let's go to duration. So the description of the duration field tells us that the time will be in microseconds that the remote procedure call took to complete it. So this is the description of this field. So it will denote time in microseconds, right? And by default, those columns are narrow. However, we can resize them to make the things easier to read. So I've just resized them. So you can resize it like this. And once we have determined, so let me take another thing. So let's take SQL batch completed maybe. So let me take this SQL batch completed. Let me take this, and let's take RPC completed as well. Let's take this one as well. So let's move it to right hand side. So we have added RPC completed and SQL batch completed, right? Now, once you have determined that the given event is the one you wish to add to the session, right? You click on the arrow pointed to the right in the middle of the window. So we use this arrows to move events on the right hand side, and we can similarly move event to the list of available events. So if we click the left pointing arrow, right? So when we click on the right pointing arrow, this will move the events from the events library on the left to the select events on the right. And I have selected two events and added them to the select event list, which is the event list on the right hand side. All right. From right there, right here, we have done all we must do to create an extended event session. So we have selected two events and we have named the session as a test session, and we have selected two events. So we have pretty much done with what is required to create an extended event session, and we have provided the session with the name. I don't know what name. Uh, so session name. Uh, I've marked it as test session. So let me see if that name is fine. So let's leave it at test session. But you should give some meaningful name if you're doing something, right? As per your requirement, you can give a meaningful name. I've just given the test session name on the general page, right? So that should be it. Let me see if anything is missing. So all right, I've named it properly, and I think we are good over here. Just give me a few seconds, guys. Let me continue from here. So we have pretty much added what is required, right? All right, so we have added pretty much everything that is required. We have selected two events. We have given session the name, and we have added basically two events. At this point, all the defaults will work, right? And we can create a session. However, there is some more to understand about how to configure the events within the session. So let's click on the configure button. So with one of the events selected, let's click on the configure button, right? So this button gets enabled once we add the events on the right hand side, right? So when we add the events to a session, it will enable this configure button, and this is visible in the upper right corner of the screen. Clicking on this button will shift us to another window. So let's click on configure. So it gives us another window, right? And if we click on select, it will take us back to the previous window. Now let's click on configure to configure the events. So this is the window we get, and if we select, we can configure the global fields and other settings for each event. So let's see. Now we will walk through each of the tabs that we are seeing here. We'll talk about the global fields, we will talk about filters, we will talk about the event fields. All right. Now let's talk about adding global fields to the events. Okay guys, let's walk through each of these tabs. Global fields, also known as sections, filter, predicate, and the event fields. So first tab open by default in the event configuration window. So these are event configuration options. So first tab opened by default in the event configuration window is the global fields. All right, and these are also called actions as indicated in the bracket, which is more accurate. And these are additional pieces of data that can be added to the events. So we have events RPC completed and SQL batch completed. So these are the additional pieces of information we can add to a particular event. Now, as you can see, the columns are a little narrow by default. All right, so you can expand it a little bit. So columns are a little narrow by default, and you can widen them to see better what kind of data is there. For each action, you also get a description. So for each action, we have a description present over here, right? You can read through the description, telling you what will be created or collected through that action. So these are the action description basically. So for example, call stack, the description of call stack is collect the current call stack as raw binary data. So each description is written against each of the global fields, which can be added to the event. All right. You can highlight one or more events on the left hand side on the screen. So I have selected RPC completed, and you can shift click to select them, or control click to pick the individual one. So you can select multiple by using the control and the shift options. So right now both the events are selected. So if I select any of the options, those will be configured for both the events. All right. All right. So we can use control shift combinations to pick up individual or multiple events. A good example of an action that is worth adding for the kind of query metrics we are mostly interested is in the query hash value and the query plan hash. So we have a global field value, namely query plan hash and query hash. Query hash value, do we have anything like that? So it's just query hash and query plan hash. So this is one of the actions. These two actions are worth adding for the kind of query metrics we are mostly interested in. So these are the ones, query hash and query plan hash. If we read through the description, query hash refers to collect query hash. Use this to identify queries with similar logic. And there is more description to it. You can read through that. That's a quite huge description. So you can use the query hash to determine the aggregate resource usage for queries, and that differ only in literal values. And same is for query plan hash. We have description, you can read through it. But yeah, these two are some of the useful global query fields. All right. And these are also nicknamed the query fingerprints as well. And we will discuss more about them later on, maybe in the later videos. And to add them to the events we are collecting, we need to select both the events. So I've done that. So you can control click. Sorry guys. So you can do control click to select each event. Now both the events are selected. Go down below under the global fields and select these two events. So we have added query hash and query plan hash. So first select both the events, Then scroll down to find the actions, these actions, query hash and query plan hash. So once these are selected, we are fine. And you can also see that the selected events on the left hand side is changed little bit. So we have two added against, so we have two fields configured, so it is showing us value 2 under the lightning bolt symbol. So this is the lightning bolt symbol. For each event we see number 2, that is because we have added two global fields for each of these events, right? This basically indicates that two actions have been added, and you have added different. If you had different actions selected for different events, those number may be different, and if no actions are selected, you will see 0 value against the just below the lightning bolt indicator. If none of the global fields are selected for a particular event, we will see 0. All right, now let's talk about using the predicates, which is the second tab for events. So predicates are basically filter conditions. So the next tab is where we define a filter or predicate for the events. So we define all the filters or predicates for the event here. This predicate functions just like a where clause in the query. So take it similar to like a where clause in a query where we filter out a query. In fact, when we look at the T-SQL later in this video, we will see that it is a where clause quite literally. So this is filter predicate is a where clause. Now when you first look at the customized session as we are doing, the screen will be blank. So if you first go to the filter predicate screen, you will see blank under this box, right? And just as with the actions, just as we have done with the global field actions, we can individually select events on the left hand side, right? Or group them together to define the predicates, just like we did for actions or global fields. The actual operation of the predicates is straightforward. All right. Basically, we click on where it says click here to add a clause. So let's click here. All right. You will immediately get a new line. As you have just seen, you get a new line once you click here. So after that, what you need to do is next you click the drop down box label field. So if you click on field, there's a drop down available over here, and this will basically open up a customized list of values, and it depends upon what events we have selected on the left hand side. Depending upon that, it will show us the fields over here. If we have a single event selected, we will see a event fields listing field, events field listed first, followed by all list of all the actions, and you can filter by either. If you have more than one event selected, all right, so in our case more than one event is selected, you will see a list of common events field. So right now the list of items under the field which is showing up are common to both these individual task. So if we just select one, we will see a different set of field over here. So now we see a connection reset option, CPU time data stream. If we select both of them and then check, some of the options are, the connection one is gone now. All right. So right now we are seeing a list of common events field followed by the actions. So, all right. All right. Let's move ahead. Now, extended events filters the events based on the predicate we provide at the capture of the event. So let's discuss that in detail. So basically extended events basically filter the events based on the predicate we provide here at the capture of the event. This means that we want to be sure that we use the most stringent filtering criteria as we can. So filtering criteria should be stringent over here. Also, we want to ensure that the most stringent filter is applied first. So first of all, we make to show that we want to make sure that more strict filter should be applied first here to help reduce the overhead of capturing of events. All right. For our example, we are going to select the action for the name of a database. All right. This is so what we will do. We will select an action from the bottom. So that action name is SQL Server database name. So let's see, where do we have that action? So these are some of the actions rather than events. Initially it will list out events, and later on it list out some actions. So we are looking for SQL Server action, which is the database name. We are looking for that for our tutorial. We are taking SQL Server database name. This means that the action itself is a part of the SQL Server system, as opposed to the SQL Server OS actions that are shown as SQL OS. So some of the actions are starting with SQL OS. These are OS actions. Whereas the events or actions starting with SQL Server are the SQL Server actions. These are the OS actions, and these are the SQL Server actions. What the difference, guys? Any OS actions are defined by SQL OS actions, and any SQL Server specific actions are defined by SQL Server actions. So we have selected SQL Server specific action, SQL Server database name. All right. Now, after picking the field, we have to pick up the operator. The default is an equal to showing up over here, right? So we can select any other operator as well. So basically here we are talking about the database name and exact match is necessary. So let's keep it to equal to. And operators, there are multiple operators. If we take a look at the list, we have greater than equal to, less than equal to, etc., etc. So operators include but not limited to the following. Equals is basically for the exact match, less than to determine values less than another, greater than to find values that are higher than another, like to find the pattern matches. So there's a like one as well. So we have a like operator here as well. But yeah, for this example, let's keep it to equal to. And there are large number of other logical operators for filtering of events. We have just shown you in the list. So there are not large number of operators available here, but let's keep it to equal to. These are the most common. So the four one are most common: equal to, less than, greater than, and like. These four are most common. Finally, we have to supply the value for the logical operator to compare. Okay. This can be string values in the case of a database name. So in our case, it will be a string value in the value field because we have chosen database name, right? Or it can be numbers as well, as depending upon the field we are selecting. Now you can add any you can then add additional values for comparison. For our example here, we are filtering to only capture queries for the database called AdventureWorks. So let's put AdventureWorks over here quickly. So we are using AdventureWorks database. So we have selected SQL Server database name equals AdventureWorks. So make sure AdventureWorks database is available in your system under the databases section. So it's AdventureWorks 2022. So let's rename it a little bit. So it's AdventureWorks, not just AdventureWorks, it's AdventureWorks 2022. Now the database name is correct, and we will be only capturing queries that will run longer than 1000 microseconds. All right. So let's see the filter definition. So first thing we have added is database name should be AdventureWorks 2022. Let's add another filter, and we will take it as AND condition because we want both the conditions to be true. So let's add duration. So we are only interested in location duration for the queries that run longer than 1000 microseconds. So let's put it 1000 over here. And after putting the value, the red marks we were getting earlier, they vanished now. So these two filters I'm selecting over here. I hope you are done till here, guys. All right, let's move on. So we will be capturing any queries that are running longer than 1000 microseconds. So these are in microseconds. The duration is in microseconds. All right, and the database name will be AdventureWorks 2022 database. Now, as with the actions, we can see check marks, right? So this is the filter section or filter column. Now we see the check marks against both of them. So which basically indicates that the filters are now applied to these two events. All right. So as with the actions, we can see check marks has been added to indicate that there are filters on the events at the left hand side of the screen in the selected event box. So this is the selected event box. We see check marks if the filters are applied to these particular events. We can also see a logical operation choice that I have between and or. So here we have used and operators. So we want both the conditions to be true. So database name should be AdventureWorks 2022 and query duration should be greater than 1000 microseconds. Only capture those events, right? And we can use either and or operators when defining more than one predicate. In this case, we have chose and because we want both the conditions to be true. Now we can also see the description for the field we are filtering on at the bottom of the page. So if we select one particular field, we see a description for that. So this is the name of the current database. So we specify the value over here. So duration, we get the description of each field over here at the bottom section. This is what I'm referring to. So we see the description for the field we are filtering on at the bottom of the page, which helps us through the whole process. Now maximizing this window will allow you to expand the size of the column. So it is already maximized and all the columns are maximized. So there is no need to maximize as the window is already maximized. So these are more readable now, and this is a good habit to get into when creating an extended event session. So we should maximize the window before defining any of the global fields and filter predicates for certain events. Now let's talk about the optional event fields, which is the third tab. Let's go into that. So this is the final tab in the event configuration window. This is the events fields tab. On this tab, we can only select a single event at a time. So we should not have selected multiple events for the event field. So let's remove that and select just one event in order to show the additional event fields, right? Otherwise, if you select both of them, you will not see anything. So let's remove one. All right, and in this tab, we can only select a single event at a time. Selecting more than one event makes the tab go blank. All right, now I have selected the RPC completed event for this tab, event fields. Now let's see what we can configure over here. So we are getting certain items like connection, reset options, etc., etc. Let's see what we will configure. The fields that do not have a check mark. So we have certain fields having a checkbox right against them. So we see three fields over here. So the fields, there are certain fields which do not have a checkbox like connection, reset option. They do not have a checkbox, right? So the fields that do not have a checkbox next to them are the ones that will always be returned by the given event. So these all fields will always be returned by a given event. So the only fields configurable are the ones against which the checkbox are showing up. So three fields can be configured over here. And if we don't want statement data, we can uncheck it here. All right. So the fields that do not have a checkbox next to them are the ones that will always return the given event. The other ones with the checkboxes are optional fields. And by default, if we talk about RPC completed event, it includes things like duration, right? It by default includes the duration. It includes the object name, right? And the row count. These are default fields, some of the default fields. However, the statement one is an optional field, right? Although it is selected by default, but it's an optional field. We can turn this off to reduce the overhead of capturing this event. But you give up the ability to see the parameter values of the procedure calls if you uncheck this option. You can see the description over here. The statement basically gives the text of the statement that was run by the remote procedure call. So we will not see the text of the statement if you uncheck this option. But checking this option will also add the additional overhead. All right. Now you can optionally turn on output parameters as well, right? And the data stream as well, we can turn it on as necessary. Not all events have optional fields, but many do. All right. And so this is an area worth keeping an eye on when setting up your own events. And with all these values set, the next thing to do is define whether the output from capturing the events, sorry. So when all these values are set, we are just taking statements, not changing anything over here, right? So with all these values set, what we are doing, the next thing to do is to define where the output from capturing the events will go, whether it will go to a file or where the output will go for capturing these events. So let's see. So that's how we define the targets, where the actual output data for this event capturing will go. So let's go to data storage for that. So if we talk about nodes, yeah, we are still creating extended event session. So what we are doing here is we are defining the targets where the output will go. So by default, no target has to be defined. So right now, by default setting is no target has to be defined. And when we create a session, the output can go to a memory space called ring buffers. So if we don't specify any output, where the output will go, it will go to a memory space of OS called ring buffers. All right. However, this actually takes memory away from the operating system. So ring buffers are in the operating system memory. So if we don't specify any target area, then the output will go in the memory space, and this will take away memory from the operating system and SQL Server. So in the production environments or for certain test in non-production environments, it is not a good idea at all to use the ring buffers. Instead, we get the multiple options. The data storage or target page by default look like this. So this is the targets page or the data storage page. It by default it looks like this. All right. So it's not a good idea to output everything to memory. So ideally we should define a target, right, in the production environment especially. Now as the window says, click here to add the target written over here, right, to get started. The options on the target are as follows. So if we click here, we can select the target type. So some of the target types are given over here. So first one is the ETW classic sync target. And this basically refers to event tracing for Windows output. And this is rarely used but available for if you need it. So this will output everything to a Windows event tracing. So this one is we rarely use it. Second one is the event counter. This one. So event counter is basically a count of the occurrences of the event. All right. So basically, if we select event counter, it is basically a count of the occurrences of the event. A simple way to just track how often the event happens on the system being monitored. So if you just want to capture how many times an event has occurred, you can select event counter. Now let's talk about third one, which is event file, right? So if you select event file, it will output all your events to capture to a particular file on the disk. And this is the most commonly used option used to capture the events. So we can capture an event to a file using this option. So this one is the most popularly used option. Another thing is we can use the histogram option. This target allows you to identify an event and then an action or field to group the counts, and this is extremely useful in certain cases. And next one is the pair matching. We can define a mechanism to match the pair of events, and this is difficult to use and not as handy as casualty tracking. The last one is the ring buffer, which is the default memory space already explained by us, the OS memory space. Again, this should not be used in any of the production environment. So we should not be using the ring buffer option. Instead, what we should be using is event file. All right, now let's talk about using the event file target. So that is the most popularly used option. Now when you select the event file target, right, the data storage screen changes to what you see right now. So the screen changes to this. Otherwise, if none of the option is selected, you will see nothing over here. But once you select event file, you will see some options at the bottom section, and the description is on the right side. So this basically outputs the event capture to a particular event file, right? Now let's talk about it. And first of all, we must supply a file name. Right now the file name is test session over here, right? And a path for the output of the event. So if we click on browse, what is happening is it will create a test session file, and the extension of that file will be XEL file, right? We can specify a file name over here. So let's create a file on the C drive, maybe test capture. Let's take it as test capture. All right, let's do okay. So you see a path over here now changed to C drive test capture.xel, right? So we should supply a file name and a path for the output of the events. And if we are running this on the Azure SQL database, the output must be on the Amazon storage or the Azure storage. And you have to make sure that the security is set to allow output from your Azure SQL database instances. So if you are using cloud, please make sure to manage the security so that your Azure databases can output to that Azure storage, right? Azure blob storage maybe. And with the file name and storage defined, which we have defined right now, we should decide on the size of the file. So right now it is the max size is set to 1 GB. So we should decide on the size of the file, whether it should be in gigabytes or megabytes. Right now it is selected in gigabyte, but if we can set it back to megabytes if required. So let's keep it at gigabyte, or maybe let's set it at megabyte if you want. The default is set to 1 GB. So 1 GB is the default setting, which it is set to. But that may be small for some system. However, we don't want to go too large, or file management becomes more of an issue. Generally, somewhere between 5 GB to 20 GB works well. So if we talk about C drive on our system, I've just opened the, take a look at my PC. So we have 754 gigabytes free on the C drive. But yeah, ideally, if we talk about 5 to 20 gigabytes work well for most systems. And we can also define whether or not we should allow file rollover. So there's an option to enable the file rollover. So once this size is filled, the caption will start overwriting the file again, starting from the top. All right. So this is the file rollover option. And this is when you fill a file, another file is opened. So basically file rollover is not what I just explained. So if we enable this option, what happens is, if one file is created up till 1 GB, this option will enable a new file to be created, and maximum of 5 files can be created, each measuring 1 GB in size. All right. And this is basically the enable file rollover option. All right. I hope you get it. So this is when you fill a file, another file is opened, and it continues until you hit the maximum number of files, okay, that you define. Then the events will start writing to the first file again. So once all the 5 files are filled, then only it will start writing to the first file. So that is the file rollover. But yeah, up till 5 files, it will create 5 files of 1 GB each. And when the 5th file is filled up, it will start again writing to the first file. All right. Now, generally, if we talk about, this is the best approach for managing the data gathered by the extended events. Output to a file puts the least load on the system, we can say. Having the files means you can save that data if needed, and you can always open the files later on in the Live Data Explorer window, which we will explain shortly. So if the output is captured to a file, we can open it with the Live Data Explorer window. Now, this is how you use the file target. Now let's talk about the histogram target. So let's take a histogram. So I've defined one type of target. The first target is the event file. We can take more than one target. So let's take another target as histogram target. Now let's try to configure this target. Now the histogram target is extremely useful, if you can say, and it's a handy way to simply count the number of times a given event occurs. So this will basically, the histogram option will basically help us in counting the number of times a given event has occurred, right? But the with the information grouped by fields or actions. Okay. So the information is grouped by the fields or actions. Now let's see how to configure this histogram target. Um, so this histogram target could be configured to count the occurrences of different stored procedures being called, right? So for histogram, let's take a count on the RPC completed, which is the stored procedure, basically. And this is not an action, and this is the field, right? No, this is the event to filter on. So RPC completed is the event to filter on, right? And it will gives the count. Basically, we are trying to take a count, and base buckets on the fields. Fields we are taking as object name. All right. So, and the maximum number of buckets we are defining is 256. All right. Now I have added this second target just to show how that would work. All right. Setting up the histogram target involves first selecting the event you wish to use from the drop down. So there's a drop down here. Instead of writing, you can select the event. So only two events are available, whatever we have selected earlier. So either we can do it for RPC completed or SQL batch completed. Let's select RPC completed, right? Now I've shown you the drop down for the events to filter on. Um, and this drop down will contain all the events you defined on the events page. Basically this page, we have defined two events. So under the data storage, under the histogram option events to filter on, we will only get these two events if you click on the drop down. So we have selected RPC completed. Then you have two radio buttons to choose, either an action or a field, right? Here, right? From the event we have picked. So for RPC completed, we have action or field. We have picked up object name from the RPC completed event. So there is again drop down which shows the fields for the RPC completed. So what we have done is we have chosen the field object name for the RPC completed. So object name is coming over here. So let's select object name from the RPC completed event, and that means each distinct stored procedure. So if we define histogram like this, so what this means is each distinct stored procedure will get a count of the occurrences of that stored procedure being called. Finally, we will set the number of buckets that define the histogram. The default value is 256, but you can adjust that up or down as per your requirements. And the large number does put more load on the system, so be cautious when defining this value. So now let's keep it to this, and we are done. And after you create a session, it gets stored on the server. So let's talk about working with session. So we have defined the session right now. Once we click on OK, this session will get created. So after you create a session, it gets stored on the server we are connected to, right? And we can see the sessions you have using in the Object Explorer window. So let's click on OK. So this is being created. Let me go to SQL Server. So this is the test session we have created, and right now it is stopped, indicated by that red sign. So under the session section, you will see all the sessions that are stored on your system, right? So you can see the sessions that you have used in the Object Explorer window in the SQL Server Management Studio, or we can also query the system tables to get the sessions, but right now we are seeing it in Object Explorer. So these are sessions, 4 sessions currently on my machine, right? And You can tell which sessions are running and which one are stopped by looking at the green arrow or the red square. So these two are running at present, and the other ones too, always on health and the test session, these are stopped. So you can tell which sessions are running and which sessions are stopped just by looking at the green arrow or red square on the symbol next to a session. From here we can stop or start a session. So our test session is right now stop. If we want to start it, we can right click it and do a start session in order for our session to get started, right? So from here we can stop or start a session, and we can also edit a stopped session. So if we again want to edit this session, we can go to properties and make any configuration changes to this session. So let's wait for the session to load. So now this is loaded. If we want to make any changes, we can do that through here, but we don't want to make any changes, so let's keep it okay. All right, so we can change the properties of the sessions from here, and we can remove the sessions from here. So if we want to remove the session, right click on it and just do a delete. I'm not deleting it right away. So you can also control sessions through T-SQL, which we will cover later on. Now let's talk about adding casualty tracking, and let's talk about the casualty tracking feature. And casualty tracking is a powerful feature within the extended events. All right, it allows you to easily identify events that are related to one another. So let's talk a little bit about the casualty tracking here, just to give you an idea. Casualty tracking, casualty tracking. So this is the feature available for the extended session. So let me mark it with some good color. Let's mark it with this color. Now, what is casualty tracking? Casualty tracking, if we talk about, is a powerful feature within the extended events. And basically what it allows is, it allows you to easily identify the events that are related to one another. So this is one of the features. It allows you to easily identify the events that are related to one another. Further, it shows the precise sequence in which those event occurs. It also shows the precise sequence, we can say, sequence in which these events occur, whatever events that are related to each other. It will let us know the sequence as well. And that makes casually tracking extremely useful in situation like troubleshooting recompiles. We'll talk about that later. Don't bother about that. So casualty tracking is extremely useful in the situation when we are troubleshooting issues related to recompiles, query recompiles. You can capture the query metrics as well as the recompile events and then directly relate them to each other. So we can capture both the query metrics as well as the recompile events, and then we can directly relate them to each other. All right. Now you define casualty tracking at the session level. All right. So let's go back to SQL Server. So we define casualty tracking at the session level. And when we enable casualty tracking, we are adding some additional overhead to the extended event capture. So if we go to that properties of a session and we try to configure it, on the general page, this feature was there, the casualty tracking, this section. So basically it tracks how events are related to one another, right? So when you enable this casualty tracking features, you add some additional overhead to the extended event capture. But we use this frequently. But we also try to be cautious just about how much additional load we want to put on the system. We should be cautious when using this option. And we see additional data added to the event captures. So I'm not checking this option. So if we check this option, we will see some additional data added to the captured events. We will show you that data later. So the fields which get added are named as attach activity ID quit and the attach activity ID sequence. These are added to the events. So if we check under the events, if we see, right now it is not showing me anything. Only two events are selected. Let's click on OK and see if it adds anything. I've just added it, and let's go back to the properties of this window and see if we see anything added to the events. No, we still see two options. So these basically add additional data to the event captured. So additional fields are added, right? Not here, but in the actual captured data, we will see some additional fields. So those fields will be attach activity ID grid and attach activity ID sequence, which are added to the events along with some other fields. And we can group our data by the grid and sort it by the sequence or sequence to our data, unique sets of data. So we will use this option later on. So right now, let me uncheck it. For now, don't want to use it. Let's click OK. Get out of this window. Now let's talk a little about scripting of events. Then we will talk about the live data explorer window. So let's see what is the scripting of events. So scripting of extended events basically we are talking about. So while the GUI, if we talk about what we have just seen, it provides an easy way to set up and manipulate the extended event session, right? It's an easy way we have just shown you. You can also use the T-SQL, and T-SQL is a great way to move sessions between servers, right? We can also move these sessions between different servers. So T-SQL is a great way to do that. And we can also write the T-SQL directly or script out an existing session from Management Studio to get the T-SQL script. So the way to script out is to script session as create to a new query editor window, which will basically give you the SQL for the same. So let's take a look at the SQL. So this is the SQL to create an event session. So this is the whole SQL with all the parameters configured over here, right? So this is the way to script out an existing session. So right click on the session, script session as create to a new query editor window. So it will open the T-SQL code in a new query editor window. So this window is right now showing an example statement for the what we have configured right here. All right. So this is showing the T-SQL code for this test session. And the syntax is basically relatively straightforward. You do have to know which events you want to add, right? So basically, which is referred by the add event statement. So we need to know what all event we need to add using the add event statements, right? And so you do have to know which events you want to add and any optional fields that you may want to add. And right, I think that should be fine. And the predicates, if we talk about, are shown here in the where clauses. So these are the predicates we defined earlier. So for both the events, the predicates are same. We are using AdventureWorks database, and duration of the query should be great. We have taken equal to. I hope so. That is correct. So we want greater than. Okay, I don't know whether this should be greater than or not. But yeah, basically this will only capture the events whose duration are 1000 milliseconds, not even greater than 1000 milliseconds. It will just capture the events which are of duration 1000 milliseconds, which is not correct. Ideally it should be greater than over here, right? But yeah, I'm just telling you about the syntax. So where is the section where you added the clauses in the GUI mode. So those clauses are coming over here, right? So you can define and control the targets as well. So target is given over here. So we have added the target event file is the first target, and we have set the file name where the event will be captured. And we have added the second target, which is a histogram, and we have specified the events and the object names under that event, object name under that event, right? So this is the T-SQL syntax for the same. And we can also start, stop, and drop a session with the T-SQL as well. And if you want to, so this is the SQL we have seen for the actual creation of the event session. Let's close it out and let me show you how you can write a SQL script, how they can be, how the test session can be started via the T-SQL script. So if the GUI mode, if you're talking about, you can right click on it and do a start session. You can do the same by using the SQL script. So in order for that, if you want to start a test session or the extended event session test session, what you need to do here is you need to write a T-SQL statement, alter events session. So this is an event session. You need to provide the session name. So here we have the session name as, let me give it a better name over here. Let's go to properties and change it to query performance metrics instead of this test session. It just doesn't look good. I cannot change the name from here now. Let me see if I can change it from outside. No, it doesn't allow you to change the name later on. So you should initially specify some useful name. For now, let's keep it to test session instead of query performance metrics. So in order to start the session, you need to alter the event session test session. And we need to alter it on this server, right? And we want to change the state to start. So if we execute this code, this will start up the session. Similarly, if you want to stop the session, started session, you need to write this code. Instead of start, just keep the keyword as stop. This will stop the extended event session. Finally, you can read the output of the extended events through T-SQL using a system function. Right, so we can use the T-SQL to read out the XEL file that we are saving the output to, right? So we are storing the data in the XEL file in the event file section, test capture XEL, right? So we can use the SQL to read data from this particular file. The syntax would be select star from, there's a function, system function, sys.fn underscore xe file target read file. This function can be used, and under that you need to specify the path. You may specify the exact path. So you can give C drive and I don't know what was the name of the file. Let me check it again. So the name of the file was, you can copy it out down from here. So the name of the event file is test capture.xel. So let me specify that. Test capture.xel is the file name. So it will read this file, and next you need to supply some parameters. We are specifying null and null as you can define the fx as the name for, I don't need to specify the name because we are not taking column by the name. So if you run this command, it will read out the data from this test capture XEL if we have saved any data in this file. Right now, nothing has been saved in this file because our test session is stopped from the beginning, right? But yeah, just make a note of this function to read the file later on, right? And we can see the results of the query in so once we run this command, we will see the results of the query in the below window. Right now, nothing is there, right? Some of the columns are object names. So right now, nothing is there because we have captured nothing. So let me capture something. Let me start a session for a while. So I've started the session. So it has given me, so it is saying me some error, giving me some error to start the, let me save these queries and try to start the test session. So let me mark them as extended session queries, right? So some kind of exception has occurred. I'm not able to start this session. So it is giving me some error 26502. If we go into detail, right, it is giving me error if we want to. So it is giving me error encountered a configuration error during initialization. Object cannot be added to event session null. So somehow it is not allowing me to run the session. Let me see why. Give me a few minutes. So guys, let me not give the exact path for the file which we have defined. Maybe it is causing some issues creating that file on the C drive. So we just need to specify the name of the file under the data storage for event file. Let me remove this event and let me add it again. So let's remove the event file. Let's add it again. So event file, and let's add it. Let's just keep the file name as testcapture.xcl so that it can save the file at the default location. I don't know what should be the default location, but yeah, let's just keep it like this, and even remove the xcl extension. Let's just keep it test capture, right? And let's click on OK. So now this is saved, and let's check the code as well to see the file path. So the file path is now just the file name. I don't know where it will create. Maybe it will create at the default location. Now let me try to start a session to see if it captures anything. So let's start the session. So I've started the section. I think it will now initialize the file and allow us to capture the event. So right now the test session is started, so there are no issues, right? And it may have captured some events. So let me stop the session and see if something is stored within this file. Let's execute this. So nothing is now yet no, at the moment nothing is stored in the file. So I think there is still some issue. Let me see what the issue is. I think that equal to is not correct. So let me try to modify that. Give me a moment. So yeah guys, I think there we do not need to take the equal to, but instead we need to take that event filters are not correct. So we need to go to events and go to the configure section, select both the events, right? And use the control button to select all the events, maximize the window, and under the filter predicate, duration should not be equal to, but instead we should be using greater than. So greater than is not coming over here. Maybe greater than equal to we can take instead of greater than. Alright, let's take greater than equal to. Alright, that should be fine. Now let's click on OK. I've just modified the test session. Now let's try to run this session. And let's see if it is capturing anything in the file. Right now nothing is going on in the file. Maybe I've not run anything or something. Not sure where the file is being created. It's not being created here. Let's see if it is being created in the downloads folder under SQL Server Management Studio. The name of the file is not here as well. I don't know whether it has captured anything in the file yet, but nothing is in this file as we can read it from here. Nothing has yet been captured in the file. Now let's stop the session. Let me see if why it has not captured. So guys, let me try to do something. Let me start the capture of the test session. As it is related to database, this adventure works. Let me try to pull in some data from the table to see if it captures anything. So let me select something from the human resource.employees table. Let's select top 1000 rows. So we have selected certain data, right? It must have created some data for this extended event session. So let me stop the session and try to run this command to see if it has captured anything. No, it has still not captured anything. And the name of the file is different as well. So it's not C drive test capture anymore. And the name of the file is test capture. That is also the case. So let's execute it. It is still not showing us anything. So let's define file name like this under the current section. Let's see if it gives anything. Still not give anything. Let's try to add some maybe wildcard characters to see if it gives anything. Let's try to execute. Yeah, now it is giving us anything. Some of the items, right? We have ran some commands. So test session has captured these RPC completed and SQL batch completed statement. So this is how you read the file, and this is basically referring to the current location. And let's see where the file is created. I think it should be created on the C drive, maybe. I don't know. So C drive is not showing me any file, so don't know where it has created. So document SQL Server Management Studio is the default place, and let's try to search for it. Let's try to use the same parameter, and let me try to see using the wildcard characters on C drive where the file. So let's search for these files. Let me see if I can find any files on my C drive, just to get an idea where the files are stored. So guys, the reason I've given the wildcard character here is so that it can read all the data from all the files. So we have defined 5 files, right? So ideally it should take all the files. That's why I've defined the wildcard characters, and the extension of the file is XEL. Alright, so let me see if any of the files are created in the system. It's still trying to look out for those files. I don't know where it stores them, because we have just mentioned the name of the file and not any specific drive letter. It should have stored it somewhere. Let's see. So guys, in the meantime it is searching for files. Let me take you through that output, which is captured in the test capture XEL files. So we can see that session is capturing both the RPC completed events and the SQL batch completed events. Alright, and it is basically capturing both RPC completed and SQL batch completed sessions in the object name column. So the object name columns give that information, whatever events we are capturing over here, right? And you can see where the session file is stored. So it gives the location of the session file. So this is the location of the session file. So session file is with the name. In the log section, we will see test capture 0 XEL files are there, right? And this is the same file where the data is being stored. So I hope SQL Server has found. Now we have the location, so we can directly go to this location. So why we are finding this location, I don't know. Let me stop the search. So let's go to this location altogether, and let's remove the name of the file, and we will see, or let's continue to give access. So here we will see all the XEL files. So if we do a star.xel over here, right? So these are the capture files, starting with test capture, right? There are other capture file as well, but the session we have created is the test capture session. So these are the file for, maybe we can mention the test capture as well to get the exact file. Test capture, right? Test. So right now 3 files are created, right? Each one is small in size. So approximately 10 KB, 100 KB, whatever. So the data is coming out of these 3 files in this table. So the exact way to use this function is like this. You need to use the current location, but the default location, and you need to specify the wildcard parameter if you want this query to give you certain output, right? So I was talking that it has captured the RPC completed and SQL batch completed events. In addition, it provides the location of the file where the information is captured, right? So finally, the event data is event data is in the XML format. So given over here, this is the XML tags contains all the information captured. This tag basically contains all the information captured by the event, and we will shortly see examples on how to better use this functionality for troubleshooting later on. For now, you got the idea on how to set up an extended event session, right? We have set the test session. Right now it is stopped. I have stopped it, but you can start it if you want to capture the events. And how to configure it, I have shown it to you, right? So we are fine over here. Now let's talk about the live data window, right? So because the output of the extended events is XML, right? It can be difficult to read the information. So we cannot read the information out from here, right? Because the information is coming in the XML format, right? So difficult to read from here, right? While it is possible to write X query in T-SQL to deal with this, we can write an X query to read out these event data in the XML tags. But that's not easy either. And instead, as much as possible, we will lean on the Live Data Explorer window in order to consume the output of the extended event. So let me show you how to read the XEL files via the Live Data Explorer. You get to the Live Data Explorer window by either opening the extended events file or by right clicking on the running session and choosing watch live data. So if you want to see the live data, let's close it out. Let me not close this one. Let me save it. This is the extended session query window. So we have shown you how to you can read it using the function. But for now, let me close it. And if you want to see the live data explorer window, you can right click on it, the extended event, and on the running session, and select the option watch live data. But right now this session is not running, so let's first start the session. Then what we can do, we can watch the live data using this option, watch live data. And this is the live data explorer window. Right now it is not capturing anything, but yeah, if we select anything out of that AdventureWorks database, maybe select data from any table, it will capture some event. So let me select top 1000 row from person.business entity table. Let's do that. So I've selected some data. It has still not captured anything. Now it is showing us data. It has captured some RPC completed and SQL batch completed events, right? So this is the live data window, which can be shown on the running session. So test session is now in right now in running condition, right? So that's why we were able to see the watch live data window, which is coming over here, right? Over here. All right. And so either way, the very first time we open the window and start capturing events, it will look like this, right? RPC, we will see a bunch of RPC completed events and SQL batch completed events. And we can select some of the events over here to see the data at the bottom for that particular event. We can check out the data for SQL batch completed. We can see what batch text has been executed, right? And we can see other batches which were completed. So here we have selected the top 1000 rows from that particular table, person.business entity, and that was completed in this SQL batch completed event, right? So we can see the statement over here, right? All right, so we can see the events like this and data related to events like in the bottom window. We can check out the data, right? So this is the live data window initial view, and the screen is split into two. The top one is the showing us the series of events that we have captured. The bottom is showing up all the fields, right? Uh, the bottom is all the fields for a given event, and selecting an event in the top basically will show the details at the bottom, right? While we can use the live data window this way, it's not efficient, right? We can use the data window like this way, but this is not an efficient way. And to really put the live data window to work, you need to change the behavior of the grid at the top of the screen. So in order to use it in a good manner, what you can do is you can change the, let's see what you can do. So by default, we can use live data windows in this way, but it's not efficient. And to really put the live data window to work, we need to change the behavior of the grid at the top of the screen. And you can right click the field. So right click the field, right? And select show column. So show column. I don't know where it shows up. Show column. Give me a minute, guys. Let me check it out. So basically you can add any additional fields to the top grid by right clicking on any field over here. So we can add that field by using show column in table. So if we select the duration column, for example, and we select the show column in table, it will add the field to the top grid. So in this way you can view the information in a meaningful manner. You can view it in a grid instead of reading using the bottom down approach. You can read all the data right there in the grid. And similarly for SQL batch completed, you can add the batch text over here to the right hand side as well if you want to read it directly over here. So for example, it is showing us data over here, right? What query we ran to get the data out of certain table. All right, in this way you can add out columns. Now we can start to see the how this can be useful way to consume the information, right? We can in the live data explorer we can add as many number of fields as we like and read out the information, and this is a useful way to consume the information. And another way to control this is to take advantage of all the tools available within the live data explorer. So we have other tools available as well in the live data explorer, and there should be a toolbar on the top of the screen. So this is the toolbar we are referring to, this toolbar. Let me take it to the bottom, right? So from here as well we can stop the data feed for this test session, right? So this is the live data explorer toolbar which is coming over here, right? And near the right side is a button labeled choose column. So we should have a button. If you click on the drop down, there's a choose column button which will allow us to choose the columns we want to show in the show it in the grid window. You can select the columns from the left hand side and put them on the right hand side. For example, we can add object name, move it up and down, right? And it will add the object name to the top grid, right? So we can select the choose column to add any columns, and clicking on the choose columns basically opens up a window to pick up the columns that we want to show up in the grid. We have just added and shown you how you can add the object name column. So let me remove the object name and add some columns. So name is there, timestamp is there, duration we need. Let's add query text. So we have query text is not there, but yeah, bash text is there, which basically shows us the query text. Here we don't have query text, so that is coming within the bash text only. We have duration. Let's move it down, and logical reads can be added. So logical reads can be shown up here, and similarly we can add CPU time as well. So we can check the CPU time that was required to run this particular batch of statements. So it is showing us the CPU time is less than 0. The exact time should show up here at the bottom. The CPU time is still showing 0 over here, not giving us the exact time because the query executed in a quick manner. But yeah, this is how you can add certain columns, and this is the live data explorer data explorer toolbar. So this one is also useful. Now I have selected the columns and we have ordered them as well. Over here in the choose column section, we have ordered the columns. We can select column, move it up and down, and then click on the OK button to add those certain columns, right? The left and right arrows here, guys, if you go to the choose columns, so left and right arrows can be used to move the individual columns to the left and right side. The right side are the ones which will show up on the grid. The left hand side are showing up all the available columns that we can add to the grid. All right, and the up and down arrows can be used to rearrange the fields. Basically, to control the order of the display of particular columns, we can use these arrow fields. And there is a merged column section as well, right? We can use the merge column function to combine two columns. So let me try to use that, right? So let's we don't need batch text separately. So let's create a merged column and let's create a new, right? And we will combine the statement and batch text field to a single column known as query text. So let's select one of the columns over here. So let's take statement, right? There's a statement column, and let's select another column which is bash text. So statement and bash text can be combined to create a column known as query text. Now let's create that particular column. So let me move it up a little bit just after the name. Let's click OK. Now here we see a query text column, which is a merged column, showing us the statement and the bash text as well. So for this SQL batch completed, we have the same statement and the bash text. For other, it is somewhat different. So yeah, this is how you can merge two columns into a single column. We have just shown you by the choose columns section how you can merge two columns to create a new column altogether. So for query text, we have combined the statement and bash text field into a single column on the table. All right. So I hope you got it, and we can now see a lot more information in the table. Once we add all these columns, we will see a lot more information coming over here, right? And it's much more useful for navigating and finding the information we are looking for. Now we can take even more control over the information. Now if you again look at the toolbar, we are referring to that live data explorer toolbar. So if we again take a look at toolbar, right, what you will see as red box or square. So right now this session is running, so this will stop the data feed if I click on it. So we will see a red box or square, and pausing if we pause our mouse pointer over this, you will get a tooltip which says stop data feed, right? This is how you can pause the collection of data to the live data explorer. So if you want to pause the collection of data, just press this button, right? It has no impact on the extended event session. It's just the information on your screen that is affected. All right, so information will stop displaying after that. Now if we are, let's try to stop it. So I've stopped the data field. So I've stopped the feed from here, but if you take a look at session over here, it's still started. So feed is still being collected, but yeah, we have paused the session in the live data window. Just in the live data window, we have stopped the data, but actual session is running in the background. If you want to update the live data explorer window, just start the data feed to the live explorer data window. So when you start it, it will again collect the information from scratch. If any new event happens, it will again collect from scratch, right? All right, so starting and stopping it from here will not affect the actual starting and stopping of a session, right? All right, so stopping it from here, stopping the feed from here has no effect on the impact on the extended event session, which is coming over here. It's just the information on your screen that is affected, right? And clicking this enables the number of other buttons on the toolbar. So if we stop this, the other buttons of the toolbar gets enabled, like grouping, aggregation, etc. Right, let's capture some data feed again. So let me capture some data from the table. So let's select human resources employees. Let's select top 1000 rows and come back to this window. So it will capture some events. So some events are captured, right? So now let's stop the feed. You will see other buttons will get highlighted once you stop this. Now clicking on the stop button basically enables a number of other buttons on the toolbar. And if we are looking at the file at present that is not actively collecting data, your red box will be disabled and the other button will be enabled. So this grouping and aggregation button got enabled. Now we are not going into detail for every single aspect of live data explorer over here, but we should show you a few highlights. First, with the data pause. So right now data is paused here, right? But the actual session is still running. So with the data paused, you can add or remove bookmarks, making it easier to locate given events. So we can add a bookmark to these events, right? So this is the statement we had run. So we can create a bookmark over here. So with the data pause, you can add or remove bookmarks, making it easier to locate the given events. You can also sort the events by clicking on the column in the table. So we can sort the event as per query text as well, by name as well, right? So we can sort the events as well. We can also search for the events using the search button, which will open a new window. So we can search for the event. So there must be some search option. How to search for the events? So right click, it is not giving me search option. How to search, guys? Maybe press Control F. So if you press Control F, you will get this window. Find an extended event where you can search the list of extended event for any particular value. You can do that. So when your data read is stopped, right? So we can search for the events in the extended events window, right? All right, let's move on. And you can also save the display settings to a file. So these display settings can be saved to a file and share. We can share that file with others as well. So not sure if choose columns allow us to save that file. No, it doesn't allow us to. Okay. So we can save the display settings to a file and share that with others on our team. We can also find that after we rearrange the columns on a session, the management studio instance will always open the same session in the configuration in which you left it. So if we close it in case, right, it will show the columns in the same manner, right? So if we go to watch live data, it will show the columns in the same manner, but not showing any data, but yeah, it is showing the data in the same manner. Okay. All right. Uh, the columns are arranged in the same way, right? Just as you left them. So there are two additional functions that we are going to explore in detail, which is basically filtering of the live data, right? How you can filter on the live data and how you can aggregate the live data. So let's talk about the filtering of the live data, but let's first try to capture some data over here. Okay. Let me stop this first. I will start it again. So stop this and let's close all the windows, and let me show you how you can filter out on the live data. Okay guys, let's start with filtering of live data. So let me start this session quickly so that it can start capturing event. So I've started the session. Now let me open up the live data window by using the option watch live data. I've just clicked on it. Let's see. So it has opened up a window. Let me execute a query against this one of the tables of AdventureWorks 2022 database. So it has executed some batches already by default. Whatever I'm doing, I'm expanding the database, so that's why it's writing up some statements over here in the grid. Let me select data from human resources.employee. Right click on it, select top 1000 rows, and it will add some live data to this window. So I've selected 1000 rows from human resources.employee table. So this must have added some rows here. Like this one is the statement I had executed, right? So I've selected some data from human resource table. All right. So this is a live data window, and if you want to filter on this, what you need to do is you need to so earlier we talked about the search function, right? You can press Control F to perform search within the extended events, right? So the search function lets you find information from within the live data explorer. You can search on any keywords, right? For example, let me say I want to search for the keyword employee. As I searched on the employee table, I can do find next. So it will select the statement So this one is executing certain stored procedure against the, we must have some employee keyword inside it. Let me again search on it. So employee find next. So this is the statement we executed, right? And this statement has employee inside of it. We have selected top 1000 rows, and if you point to it, uh, it will giving me the little bit of query. And so the search function lets you find information from within the live data explorer. However, you can also directly filter the information as well, so that only certain data is displayed. Now click on the filters button. You see this toolbar, click on the filters button over here. And once you click on the filters button, opens up a filter window, right? So let's go ahead and set up a few options. So let's set a timer, which is showing any events between, right now if I select set time filter, if I want to see some events between a particular time, I can do that. So it has, by default, it has selected 4:36 to 4:37. Let me see. The starting time is not, so it is starting 4:36:23 and ending at 4:37:04. So in filters, we can select a subset of data. Maybe we can set a specific time window, right? And we can filter on any event name as well. So let's filter on maybe duration, right? Let's filter on the duration field. So I want anything where the duration is maybe greater than, not equal to. So let's take greater than equal to 1000, right? So any step which has a duration of greater than 1000 microseconds, I want to see only those statements. So durations are given over here in the back. So it has now filtered out and only giving me durations that are greater than, the operations which have taken duration greater than 1000 microseconds. If I remove the timer, I will also see events which are less than 1000 microseconds as well, but here none of the events are less than 1000 microseconds, right? So let me select event which are greater than 5000 microsecond duration. So because let's apply it. So we won't see any events now which are less than 5000 microseconds. All right, so those events are filtered out now. Let me remove this filtering. So we have not set the time filter, but just we have set the filtering on the basis of an event. So let me remove that. Let's go ahead, and it is not allowing me to do so. So let me see if I can. No, it is not allowing. So in order to remove the filter, what I can do, I can clear all the filters from here and again apply the filter from here. All right, we can do that. So as soon as I remove the filters, I can see the events which are less than 5000 microseconds as well, right? So this is how the filtering is done, right? And the filter can use time as well as the search criteria, and we can limit the time frame on the filters using this time filter, right? And we can also add filter on the events. We added the filter on duration earlier in order to return only the values greater than 5000 microseconds. So this is how filtering pane can be used. And once the filter is set, the data on view in the live data explorer is limited to only that which meets the criteria set. And we can also clear out the filters using the clear all filters button, right? And now let's talk about the aggregation of live data. We can aggregate this data as well. So we use the ability of the live data explorer to aggregate the data all the time throughout our upcoming videos. We will talk about that aggregation of data. So when we see the phrase on average this query runs in this amount of time, so we heard a term that a particular query runs in X amount of time. It is because we have taken advantage of this mechanism, right? So we by using this mechanism, we can tell about the average time of the query run, right? That is what I'm trying to say. And there are two different windows we have to use to take advantage of this. First is the grouping button. So let's click on the, right now grouping button is not coming in, only the filtration is coming in. So let's stop the feed, after which I can do the grouping and aggregation, right? Because we don't do grouping and aggregation when once the live feed is on, because that will manipulate the data in the background. So now I've stopped the feed, though the session is not stopped. Session is still running, but the feed is stopped in the live data feed window. Now let's click on the grouping button. So once you click on the grouping button, it will give you the list of available columns. So let me move on the query text to the right hand side, right? So we have selected one of the columns that we want to group on this case. So that column will be the query text. And this is an artificial column which was created by merging two columns, the statement and the SQL batch, sorry. So this is an artificial column, and we have selected that column because we want to group on that. The table in the live, so once we select this and click on OK, the table in the live data explorer window gets updated immediately in the background. So let's click OK. So now this is grouped, right? You see plus signs over here, right? So the table in the live data explorer window gets updated immediately. It groups based on the columns we have selected, right? So if we select anything, maybe let's select this, or maybe let's do this query which we ran, select top 1000, right? So it basically groups the data on the basis of columns that we select. So it is grouping the data based on the query text, right? So right now we only see one instances in under each section. We don't see multiple instances, but generally we see grouping of multiple events. For our case, we have just executed one query, so we don't have multiple same statements in any of the events here. So yeah, this is how you can group the data, right? Let's leave it for now. I don't think so anything will have multiple statements. I've checked most of them. All right. Generally, you see multiple statements. If they can be grouped, or if the same statement is executed multiple times, twice, so that those statements can be grouped, right? Here we executed query only once, those that why we only see the under select 1000 top 1000. We just see one statement over here. If we executed multiple times, we see multiple statements grouped together on the basis of query text column, right? And we can see that we are using the statement for the queries stored procedures. Each different parameter value means a different string. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If we have executed it multiple times, so let me just start the feed again, right? So let me execute the same query two times. So this will create two batches. So that's the first one. So I've just executed this, and let me execute another run, right, of the same query, right? Two same type of statements are here. Now we can stop the feed, and once the feed is stopped, we can do the grouping on the basis of query text. And you see, now the queries are same, they are bashed together under the same heading. So each one is having a same query text, right? And Here everything is same. We have not changed any parameters for the query. So yeah, we are fine here. It is showing all of the columns that we have selected. And if we wanted to group the stored procedures, we will have to add the object name to the table. All right. So if we want to add the we want to group on the basis of stored procedure, then what we need to add here on the grid is the object name, right? And we can add the object name to a table and then group by that instead of the query text as we did in this instance. We can only group by the columns that are visible in the table. So that is the only grouping option available. If you click on grouping, it will show only those columns which are visible in the table grid. So make sure the column which you want to group on is available in this table. You have added the column to the table if you want to group on that particular column. All right. So after making the change, let me click on the aggregation button here. Now this open up. So far we have discussed about grouping. Now let's talk about aggregation, right? So we have clicked on the aggregation button, and this opens up the another window, the aggregation window, like we are seeing here. And let's select some of the functions. Here we can perform some functions. So for example, if we want to do an average on the duration to get the query average runtime, and if we want to see the maximum number of logical reads done by the query, we can do that. So, and for CPU, let's select the minimum CPU um, required in each of running each of these statements. And yeah, we are pretty much done. And at the bottom, we can define the sort column of aggregation. Let's sort by the duration in the descending order. Right, so we will see the events first which has taken larger duration rather compared to the events which have taken shorter duration. Now let's click on OK. I think so variety to there are variety of aggregation to choose from. First of all, so in addition to average we have sum, minimum, max and count. So minimum, maximum, average, summation and count. And once we set the aggregation, we need to click on the OK button. So we have set our aggregations like this, and let's click on the OK button. Now it is giving me average on the top, if you see over here. So average time taken by the multiple runs of this query is this much. I think this one is in microseconds, right? So this one, so you see the times are different over here for each run, but the average time taken is this, and it's in microseconds, and the maximum CPU is taken. Maximum logical reads was 546 reads, and minimum CPU was 0. All right. So this is how you can do aggregations. So I can say now that based on the two executions of this particular query, right? On an average, the query executed in 161468 microseconds. This query in the multiple execution, the average amount of execution time was 161468 microseconds. We can also see that maximum logical reads was 546 and the minimum CPU time was 0. We can see just how much this utility, the aggregation and grouping and live data window is this live data window is very useful and it has much of the utility available here. And this is an extremely handy way, I can say, to quickly measure and understand the query performance. All right. Now, there are some general recommendations regarding the usage of extended events. Now, while we can say that extended events are a wonderful tool and has a minimal impact on the SQL Server. So we talked about this, like extended event has a minimal CPU impact. So let me say recommendations for extended events. This will be the setting. Let me highlight it quickly. Okay, let's talk about the recommendations for extended events. So earlier we talked that extended events have minimal impact on SQL Server, right? Right. SQL Server instances, we can say, and this comes. This does not comes completely free and have a cost associated with it, although it has a minimal impact on the SQL Server. So there are few recommendations we would give me a minute, guys. All right, guys. So we were talking about the extended events recommendations, and basically extended events have minimal impact on the SQL Server instances. However, they are not completely free from the cost. There are some costs associated with it, and there are a few recommendations that we would like to make to ensure that you use the extended events more successfully. So some of the recommendations are set max file size appropriately. So we are talking about the size of the files that get created to where we are logging in the extended events. We should size that file appropriately. And we should avoid using the debug events, as there are some events under the debug sections which are dangerous. There are certain debug events which are dangerous, so we should avoid using the debug events. And we should also avoid the use of no event loss. All right. And we will go over these in detail, or maybe little more detail in the upcoming videos. And on a side note, I would say that these doesn't need much details. So we will cover how you can use the lightweight statistics with the extended events um, in our upcoming video. So stay tuned, guys. If you have not already subscribed, please do so, as there will be many more videos, upcoming videos that will be very useful for you regarding performance tuning. So, all right, so you can use lightweight statistics if you are running SQL Server version 2014 and beyond. You will need to create an extended event session with the query thread profile event. So we will talk about this soon, and let's talk briefly about some of the things. The one we have just mentioned, the three items regarding the setting of max size appropriately and avoiding the debugging events. Now let's talk about sizing the max file size appropriately. Let's talk on this. Let me make this a heading in the red font. Okay, let's make it red and let's continue writing for it. So let me put in some space for aesthetics. All right, let's write about setting the max file size appropriately. And the default value is 1 GB, as we all saw in the practical. The default value for files is 1 gigabyte, right? And that's actually very small. So this size is actually very small, we can say, when we consider the amount of information that can be gathered with. So this size is actually very small when we consider the amount of information that we gather with extended events. All right. All right. So we would suggest keeping the size somewhat higher. I between maybe 5 GB to 20 GB we can suggest to basically ensure you have to basically ensure that we have adequate space, right, to capture the information and if we have a appropriate size, we will not be, and we are not waiting on the file subsystem to create files for you while your buffer fills. All right, so the size should be apt for a single file. It should be between 5 to 20 GB. The reason we do so, if we keep a small file size, then that file will fill in very soon, as extended events capture lots of information. So once that file gets filled, the control passes to the file subsystem to create new files. So that's gonna take some time. So ideally, it's good to keep a one file with a higher size, right? So that way, you should not be waiting on the file subsystem to create files while your buffer is filling up. And sometimes when the file size is small, this can sometimes if we keep the size small, this can lead to event loss. The events can and the buffer can be lost while your file subsystem is creating the files in the background. You may lose some events from the buffer. But it does depend on your system, and all right. And if you have good idea about the level of output you can expect, set the file size more appropriately as per your individual environment, we would say. So gather this point. And guys, in case I hope you are writing down notes along with me, as we write a lot while discussing a particular topic, right? So this one has lots of notes. Right. And in case you don't want to write the notes, or you have not written the notes, and if you want the notes to be delivered in a PDF format, so that would be on a paid basis. What you can do, you can send me the request over to my email address, which I will flash shortly. So it's vrmavane@gmail.com. So you can write to me and give me the heading of the notes. For these notes, the heading is ways to capture query performance metrics. So you can request notes. It will be on a paid basis. If you need it, I can provide it to you. So price would be something like 25 INR per page, as it takes lot of effort to write the notes. So in case you need it, just send me the request. I will upon getting your request, I will send you the payment link. Upon making payment, you can download the PDF notes. All right, so let's move ahead. So we talked about you should be sizing your max file size appropriately for the files you are capturing event in, and we should avoid using the debug events. So the extended events not only provide you with the mechanism for observing the behavior of SQL Server and its internals in a way that far exceeds what was possible under trace events. So extended events provide more items or provide more internal information compared to what we were using with trace events or SQL Profiler. So, but Microsoft uses this functionality. So generally, these debug events are used by the Microsoft technical support people, so we should not be using it on our own. So, Microsoft people generally use that debug event. So, the individual administrator should not be using it alone without the help of Microsoft. A number of events are related to debugging SQL Server. So, we have some events related to, and let me write. So a number of events are related to debugging SQL Server, right? And these are not available by default through the wizard. So let me write that as well. These are not available by default through the wizard. All right, but we do have access to them. All right, so but we do have access to them via the tsql commands. So we can use debug events via the tsql commands, but we should not be using them. And there is no way to enable them through the channel selection in the session editor window. So these events, debug events, are not available in the GUI mode. So the only way you can invoke them is via the tsql commands, but you should not be doing so. And without a direct guidance from Microsoft, please do not use them, as they are subject to change and are meant for Microsoft internal use only. So debug events should only be used by Microsoft technical support people. And if you do feel that you need to experiment, you need to pay close attention to any of the events that include a break action. All right. So in case you feel you want to experiment, do so in a lab environment. And you also need to pay the close attention to any of the events that include any break sections. This means that should the event fire, it will stop SQL Server at the exact line of the code. All right. So we need to include break section in case we are using the debug events. So in case the event fires, it will stop SQL Server at the exact line of code that caused the event to fire. All right. This means your server will be completely offline and in an unknown state, and this could lead to a major outage if you were to do it in a production system. All right. It could lead to loss of data as well and corruption of your database as well. All right. So reason why you should not be using debug events, right? Let me write that down for you. So the reasons we should not be using debug events is so basically when the debug event is triggered, in case it gets triggered, so I can say in case the debug event gets triggered, right, what happens is it will stop the SQL Server at the exact line of code that caused the event to fire, right? So basically it stops the SQL Server if the event gets triggered, any debug events get triggered. And this, sorry guys, so this means that your server will be completely offline, all right, and in an unknown state, all right, and this could lead to a major outage if we are using it in the production systems. So we should avoid using the debug events. It could also, so I can say it could also lead to loss of data and can also cause corruption of the database. Alright, so this is the reason we should avoid using the debug events. Now let's talk about the avoidance of use of no event loss. So let's talk about that. Let me make it a heading quickly. Now, extended events are set up such that some events will be lost. So extended events are set up in such a way, right, that some of the events will be lost, right? And it's extremely likely by design, all right? But you can use a setting. So this is a this is by design, we can say. We will lose some of the events because we don't capture all the events, right? We only capture certain events, right? So this is by design where that we will lose some data. We use certain series of events, right? But there is a setting in case we don't want any event to be lost. There's a setting which is no event loss. If we use this setting, all the events will be captured. So this setting can be used when configuring your sessions, right? And if we do this on systems that are already under the load, so this no event loss setting can cause additional burden on your system. And if your system is already under pressure or load, you may see a significant load placed on the system. All right. Since you are effectively telling it to retain the information in the buffer regardless of the consequences. So we are capturing everything. We are not losing even on a single event. So it places a load on the system. And we are basically, by using this setting, no event loss, we are telling the system to basically retain every information in the buffer regardless of its consequences. And for small and focused sections, not sections, for small and focused sessions that are targeting a particular behavior, this approach can be acceptable. So they can be only used for small and focused focused sessions only, um, that are targeting a particular behavior. We can use this approach. There we can use the no event loss setting. Now, let me give you a brief of what is the summary of this section, right? So we have discussed about ways to capture the query performance metrics. This is I think part 1 and part 2 are there. This video is a part 2. Be sure to watch the part 1. And basically in this series of 2 parts where we have talked about ways to capture the query performance metrics, right? We have seen the 3 best ways to capture the query metrics, right? And we can use the aggregated data from the cache through the use of DMVs. We have seen that. And we can keep the data within our databases in query store. We have talked about that. And we can get into the extremely detailed behaviors through the use of extended events. So we have shown you how you can use extended events to capture data related to certain events. And we can mix and match these as we go through the process of tracking our own query performance metrics. And in the upcoming video series, this topic is done. The ways to capture query performance metrics is done. This is a 2-part video. Now in our upcoming videos, we will be discussing about analyzing the query behavior using the execution plans, the SQL Server execution plans. So that will be detailed video with lot of practical stuff. So please keep an eye for my upcoming performance tuning videos. Guys, if you have not already subscribed, again I'm telling you, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There is a subscribe button below this video. Click on that subscribe button and it will give you a bell icon. Click on that bell icon, it will give you all notifications. Check the all notifications to get notifications regarding all my future videos. So guys, go through this video series, and you can also go through all the video series present in the playlist SQL Server Performance Tuning. The link is given in the description for that playlist. Watch out all the videos, binge watch all the videos if you want to get a better understanding, and or you may also watch video as per your convenience. All right, and I hope you have subscribed by now, and please guys do post your comments, your suggestions, your requirements, any day-to-day experiences with SQL Server performance tuning, or anything related to SQL Server. You may also let us know about if in any situation my content has helped you somewhere, and also let us know if you are liking my videos. You can click on the like button below this video if you really like this video. Also guys, please share this video with your friends in case they are working in SQL Server domain, and if they do need help with the SQL Server or maybe the performance tuning area, you can share my videos with them. There's a share button and on the YouTube, with which you can share my videos with your friends. And also, please ask if you have a good network of friends who are also working in same domain, SQL Server domain. Please ask them to subscribe to my channel. I really need your help here as I'm growing my subscriber base. So really need your help here. So ask your friends to subscribe to my channel and share my videos with them. Uh, and ask them whether they like my videos or not, and maybe you can share your feedback or your friends feedback via the comments on my channel or on the video. I thank you so much for your time on this video today, which is ways to capture query performance metrics part 2. And if you want to write me an email, you can do so by writing me on vermavane@gmail.com. Email is given on this page. And we are done with today's topic, and I hope you liked this video, and I thank you so much for your time you have provided in watching this video. You have a wonderful day ahead, guys. Thank